Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the October 21st meeting of the Town of Richmond Select Board. Our calendars all say fall, and we're enjoying some wonderful cider donuts and apple cider, thanks to Marshall Paulson. Our thermometers think that it's actually late summer, but that's okay. Quick thank you to Mary Hool. The mums in front of the town center are in bloom and look gorgeous. Really brighten the place up. Before we begin with our warrant agenda, would anybody here tonight care to make a public comment?
MMC TV would like the video turned on.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you for that.
I'd like to make a comment, but I can't figure out how to raise my hand.
Go ahead.
I am Charlotte Phillips. I live on Southview Drive. I just wanted to bring it to your attention and maybe the roads crew's attention about the surprise paving that happened on Southview this week. It would be helpful if the residents were just let known about that on Front Porch Forum. But additionally, it's not the best paving I've ever seen. I don't know if it's at the final stage. I saw some slightly unprofessional behavior from one of the crew members. And then I figured out it's perhaps because the organization didn't provide them with a porta potty. And so that's why I saw what I saw.
That kind of not professional.
But I could see it out my residential window. And there's like a line in the center of the road that we sort of thought was going to get smoothed out and isn't. There's a little bit of cracking in the new pavement. I just wanted to let people know that that's what's going on here.
Right, Charlotte, that's on Southview itself?
That's on Southview itself. Yeah, and it's only Southview that got paved. That's the other thing. No Westall, no Hidden Pines, no Joan, just Southview Drive got paved.
All right, I'll follow up with Pete, our road foreman, about that and see what we can do. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up.
Thanks for letting us know. If we don't know about it, we can't follow up on it.
That's
good
what I
feedback.
figured.
Thank you. I think Lisa was first, but I'll let you go if it's germane to this.
Is it relevant? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is sort of a parking lot, but maybe a follow-up with Pete. Generally, when we do road work is to do front porch forum and website posting. And I seem to have seen that in the past, but maybe not consistently.
I think it varies on the project. Like when we were doing like the water line project, I think we tried to provide weekly updates on what to expect for traffic control and whatnot, but for smaller like culvert replacements and things like that, we haven't really done a large messaging, but we can certainly look into what could be done.
And I will take the opportunity to describe something that the Agency of Transportation does right, which is
Should be quick.
we put things out on the front porch forum, you know, they send stuff to Duncan, I'm on a list there. That method of communication, like what to expect this week, is, I think, been effective and perhaps a model to follow.
I don't know this, but I suspect the surprise warm, dry weather might have caused a quick, let's get this done while we can.
Makes sense.
But I don't know that. Lisa?
Yeah, just real quick, the mobile station on Route 2, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, it is a lot nicer than I expected. It really looks good.
Did you see the copper flashing and roofing?
Yeah, I mean, there's touches that,
You don't
It's a
expect to
gas
see
station,
that in a mobile mini mart.
yeah, exactly. Good. So I think, I thank the developer to hold it to that standard.
Yeah.
Didn't have to, but they did.
Yeah, it looks to be well done.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Okay, moving into our warrant agenda. Let me find our warrant agenda. So Josh, board, any additions, deletions, or modifications to tonight's agenda? Moving on. Okay. So reminder, Tuesday, November 12th is the special select board meeting for the discussion of the fiscal year 26 budget. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, just picked up 4.5 minutes. Also a reminder of the special town meeting on Saturday, November 9th, 2024, to vote on the process to approve the annual budget and to vote on the establishment of a special projects reserve fund. Bard?
I think we should just remind people of the location as well.
In the time.
So it's Campbell's Middle School at 9 a.m. I also worked on an informational sheet I realized that people wanted a little more info. I didn't get that until this afternoon. I did email it to the board. I could review it here if that would be helpful, or what might be helpful is if one or two members would volunteer to kind of read over it and provide some feedback, by the next day or two, and then I'll post that on Front Porch Forum. And I think that'll help sort of explain what each item's about a bit more in general, or more in detail, I should say.
Okay, thanks, Josh.
I actually could come by. I'm dropping my car off relatively early in the morning.
One
If
morning.
you're around tomorrow morning, I
Yeah.
could do that, and as well as the purpose statement that we discussed at the previous meeting.
That sounds great. I'm usually in by like 7:30 after I drop the kids
It'll
off.
be
so-
after that.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I gotta leave by 11:30 for a CCRPC lunch, but anytime between 7:30 and 11:30 I can
Awesome.
make work.
Okay.
That'll be helpful. Thanks, Bart.
Are we
Josh,
ready?
The notice for the November 9 meeting, just here, so there's one word on the second page, it's.
Oh, that's in the,
Yeah,
that's what I wrote today.
phrase, is there phrases?
Perfect.
Or phase, whatever. I forget what it was.
Okay, no, that's helpful. That's what I was gonna ask for
Mhm.
some review on.
Proofread it. And that's all
That's why I asked
that's all
for
right.
some feedbacks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Very helpful.
Are we ready to move on?
Mhm.
Okay. I understand our town clerk is retiring.
No.
She's been called up by the major leagues.
The town clerk of the year.
Mhm.
I was, yes, 2 years ago.
You deserve it.
Well, Linda, on behalf of the board, I wish you the best, but I also understand that we have some pretty big shoes to fill, and your institutional knowledge and
Mhm.
expertise are
Oh.
not easily replaceable.
And like you say, I've lived here my whole life in Richmond.
Not yet.
No, not yet. And I was figuring it out. I've worked for the town for 34 years. And clerk in March, it'll be 22.
Wow.
What was your favorite
So it
year?
takes that long to get.
Pardon?
What was your favorite year?
My favorite year?
Like, was 1994 like a particularly good year?
No, I can't think of any that's outstanding,
No good years.
You are going to be writing a tell-all memoir though, right?
Yeah. Actually, the Town Clerks Association, we have written the first edition of a book of like some of the fun stories that we have had.
Names, real names.
Can you share?
No, no names are used and no clerks' names are used.
Can you share what was on your page?
Some of them are very similar.
Okay.
Mhm.
We've had times that one man came in and he's writing his check and it was the discussion of Christmas was going on by somebody in the office and he writes his check to the town of Christmas.
He's easily influenced.
Yes, but
Jeez. Bart?
So, on top of thanks to Linda for at least 34 years, and the rest of her term, to state the obvious, this is not like we often would discuss for succession planning or hiring. This is an elected position, so part of the point tonight is to be clear with people that this is an event that's coming up pretty soon. And then there will be a handoff from Linda to a person yet,
to be
a player to be
determined.
named later.
Yes, I have given out one petition.
Really good.
The person was interested and asked a bunch of questions, so that's good.
The main thing is they have to be a resident of Richmond. That's-
Right, and that's
And
really
alive.
why I'm retiring at this time, because I don't live in Richmond, even though I have had multiple offers.
So if we found you a place to live, you'd consider staying.
Well, yeah.
That's not bribery.
Well, Linda, I hope
with
that
the
you won't
donuts.
leave the country after town meeting day, because the new person, I'm sure, will have a lot of questions.
I'm sure, usually, I told Josh that usually when the town clerk gets done, they're done at 7 o'clock on town meeting day.
No,
And that's,
End of
by
the term.
state statute, that's the end of the term. You walk out at 7 o'clock and the only thing they really have to do is submit the minutes of the town meeting. But there's no way that I'm leaving our BCA at 7 o'clock.
I don't think you could if you tried.
Marshall would lock the
As the
door.
chair, she won't have that option.
Yeah. So, I would think that I would, I told Josh that I'm willing to help whoever it is, get acclimated.
Well, David, so I've talked to a couple of people about this, but I think I mentioned this before, that I've seen double fills in state government, and that's for people who are not elected, of course. But having thought about this and talked about it to a couple of people, one of the things we might contemplate is like an hourly contract with Linda, because this is not necessarily a volunteer position for Linda to sort of
As a
help
consultant?
her successor take it on.
Mhm.
But that's just an idea. I don't know if it makes sense. to
No, I think
Linda
that's very
and
reasonable.
others.
We can't take Linda for granted. She's gonna be, off doing her stuff, and we can't just say every time we want, Linda, pick up the phone and do this.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen in state government too. And there's a moment where, dude, I have a new job now. So
Mhm.
Well, it's been an honor and a pleasure serving the people of this town.
Would you be open to coming back hourly to help
Sure.
your elected replacement?
Yep.
I know that's a big ask.
At your convenience.
Think I could do that, yeah.
Thank you.
I would just offer that VLCT may actually, this has no doubt come up before, they might have a
Mhm.
job description or contract template that we could use.
For extending it, yeah. So did you also want to discuss like any sort of outreach? I know we talked about that a bit, the budget
Right.
meeting. There's not really a job description that Linda or I have on file. I think it's really refer to statute for the job description. We do have this position slotted at grade 7 on the pay grid, which would start at about $73,000 per year. And there's a 2% annual stipend for completing some financial tasks, which helps us with separation of duties in the financial world. So at the minimum, I could put out a notice in Front Porch Forum and on the website, and our job postings listing that the elected position is open. It starts at this pay with a stipend. The duties are outlined in statute. If you have questions, talk to Linda, talk to me, talk to
What do you
Linda.
get on the ballot? Right.
Right.
Yeah, and how to get on the ballot, yes.
We're gonna have a lot of people on the ballot this year because clerk, treasurer, moderator, 2 select board, constable,
Cemetery,
cemetery, 2 cemetery.
right?
cool.
Are you, that this is a serious, not stupid question. Will you be continuing on the cemetery commission, or do you plan
I-
to? Or can't you?
I
guess you
think
can't.
that's an elected position as
No,
well.
it is, but does it require, I guess it probably does require Richmond Reston. So that's another one we'll have to fill. That'll be
Yeah.
hard.
So, yeah,
I mean,
nobody,
you
nobody
do-
really wants to do
Right.
that job.
No, there's a lot. I see you dealing with
Yeah.
on a daily basis with those.
David, I'm wondering if it's reasonable to ask Josh and Linda to work on a statement for
Mhm.
Front Porch
Yeah.
Forum and the website together and have it come from
Yeah.
both of them.
Sure.
And then when it says contact either of us, it's a message also coming from
Right.
both of them.
Point.
So serious question, Linda, I'm asking this for the next elected clerk. Would you be keeping your license plate?
I think so.
Okay, fair enough.
Or-
Clerk 1, yeah.
Oh,
You,
clerk one.
you know, you really can't be an irate driver when you have that on your car. Because they know exactly who it is.
Town clerk equivalent of having your company name on the side of your truck.
Exactly.
How's my driving?
Yeah.
1-800.
Yeah.
Well, Linda, on behalf of the town of Richmond, thank you very much for your service and your dedication.
You're very
We're
welcome.
sorry to see you go, but enjoy the next chapter in your life. You
All right.
worked hard to get here.
How about a round of applause?
Definitely.
Yeah.
You got the clap.
Have you already bought your surfboard?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Thank you, Linda.
I'm all set. That wasn't a yes.
So next we have consideration of closing Esplanade Street and Pleasant Street for Halloween, and I believe we have somebody here to speak to that. Thank you for bringing the small unmarked donuts.
Yeah, they are good.
Thank you. Once again, on behalf of Pleasant Street and Esplanade Street, we would ask to permission from the town to close the roads to vehicle traffic for the period from 4 p.m. till 9 p.m. on Halloween night, October 31st, with the understanding that one lane always remains open and emergency vehicles, whatever form that is, fire truck, rescue, police, have full access at all times. It's just something we've done, appreciate the fact that we've been able to do this a number of years and hope to do it again. It does seem to be successful for parents, for children. And it's certainly safer, both for drivers of cars trying to navigate hundreds of kids, and safer for the kids as well.
Marshall, what we have see before us is also consideration to keep Esplanade open for vehicles accessing the wastewater treatment facility. And I don't know if that's been the same practice in the past or if that's different.
I don't know the answer to that. I can't speak specifically to that aspect of Esplanade.
Yeah, that's been, I think Esplanade, this is their 3rd year requesting a closure, or maybe since COVID, it might be their 4th or 5th year requesting a closure. And we've always kept it open for wastewater treatment facility.
That is
access.
in the sample motion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just to make
Fair.
sure that if Steve needs to get down there for an emergency, he will be able to. And of course, our
Oh, yeah.
projector. This meeting is still going. We just don't have
View.
projector up, so I'll
We
be
just can't
set.
see them.
What's that?
We just can't see everything.
We just can't see everybody. They can all see us and hear us.
And the wastewater treatment plant's not accepting trucks at that time of day or anything, so
There's usually
just
something.
be,
It would be unusual.
that seems like that would be. the most
Marshall, do you know if the fire truck and the police car will be at the end of Pleasant Street again?
I don't know, but historically there's been space for them, and it's been a nice addition.
It has.
I think they
Yeah.
were planning on that, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'd love to have them. Tell them all to come down and get some
I
donuts
think I talked to,
and coffee.
I talked to the assistant fire chief, or maybe it was Dennis. I think they're planning on it with the fire truck at least.
Terrific. The kids love it.
Yeah,
they
that's
love
true,
that
they
fire.
do.
They really do. Yep. In fact, I'm gonna put a plug in and since I have the opportunity of your ear, I really like the idea of promoting that Halloween is not just for kids. And that group, it's a perfect evening for groups of adults and friends to stroll through the town, visit all of your neighbors, enjoy the pageantry and watch the kids. And it's the only time of year where as you walk around town and you get hungry, just knock on a door and you can have something. So I'd love to see more just adults enjoying the event as well.
Any more questions or comments? Are we ready for a motion?
I move to close Esplanade and Pleasant Street on October 31st, 2024, from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. to allow for trick or treating, with the requirement that both streets be open for first responder vehicles and that Esplanade Street be open for vehicles that need to access the wastewater treatment facility.
Thank you, Adam. Do we have a second?
Bart, I'll second that.
Thank you, Bard. Absent any further discussion, calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, aye?
Bart, aye.
Adam, I.
Jane, I.
And David, I. Thank you, Marshall.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Marshall.
Stop by on Halloween night.
Oh, I'll be there. Thank you. So next we have a consideration of approval of a request from Project All Together Now Vermont to utilize $3,000 from the community well-being budget line. And do we have?
Addie Crary is supposed to join. And
Yes,
Addie.
here I am.
There you are. Hi, Addie.
Hi. Sorry for missing last week. We had some things come up. My name's Addie, and I'm the Finance and Data Analysis intern at Project All Together Now.
I said I
Um,
did. I didn't hear you. It's because you're deaf.
For those of you who don't know, Project All Together Now is a nonprofit organization by teens for teens. Our focus is on equitable mental health treatment. We run events like art project booths at the Richmond Farmers Market. We've had free pizza parties for MMU students during midterms and finals. And we ran a weekly women's group for women to talk and take yoga classes. We currently employ a staff of 3 adult organizers and 8 youth interns with many different focuses. We're asking for $3,000 to help us continue to support an undeserved part of our community and benefit the teens of Richmond.
Thank you, Addie. Any questions or comments?
Have they requested funds in the past? Not
Yes.
sure. Okay, and of the same amount or larger, smaller?
In that ballpark, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. And the budget has been $5,000. I think this is the 3rd year we've had this in the budget, and every year altogether now is the only organization that requests funds, and I think that we end up expending the full 5,000 or close to it every year.
David, I would only note for members of the public who may not have looked at item 3E on our posted agenda as a related file. There is not only a summary of information, but links to other information related to this as well.
Good point.
Any further discussion? Are we ready for a motion?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, in the matter of the request for $3,000 in charitable money from Altogether Now, I move that we grant that.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. So the motion is to move to approve the use of $3,000 from the community well-being budget line to support the work of Project Altogether Now Vermont, which includes youth interns and community programs which support Richmond residents.
Is Bart, I'll second that.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Bard. Any further discussion? Hearing none, calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, aye?
Bart, aye.
Adam, I.
Jay, I.
And David, aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Addie.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay,
Thanks. Thank you.
okay. So next, we have an update on submitting notices of intent and stormwater permit renewal applications for Mary Drive and Hidden Pines, and for discussion of the Jericho Road stormwater permit, which does not encompass private property. You want to lead this discussion, Josh?
Sure. So at the last meeting, the board made the motion to move forward with the town submitting notices of intent and permit renewal applications for Mary Drive and Hidden Pines, and submitting those as individual applications so we avoid any future confusion about the size of the impervious surface. So I entered into agreement with Watershed Consulting. They'll charge $4,750 per site for the estimate for the engineering. My experience in the past has been that the inspections of these has been a little less than that, but Andres Torrizio from Watershed explained that every 5 years are up for renewal, and because the 9010 permits have also expired and we're getting into 9050 permits, a little bit more thorough engineering review is required. So he built that into his proposal. So I've authorized him to move forward with those and get that submitted. In the interim, the state had indicated initially that we needed to pay $860 per acre of impervious surface as a review fee to reinstate the permits. The state has agreed to waive those fees, so we're paying a little more in engineering, but a little less than we had budgeted or thought we were going to pay for on the state fees. And then as I was reviewing other things, I noticed that we had in fact paid for a Jericho Road stormwater permit. So I followed up with the state on that because it wasn't on any of their lists. We asked for them for orphan permits. It seems like it's a little bit outside of these permits where it includes private roads, or sorry, public roads and private property. It's just a public road permit. And I'm getting some more information from the state as to exactly why and why isn't that covered by MRGP, which is the permit that we pay for roads in general. But it sounded like it had something to do with a set aside for like a retaining area or like an impervious area. So, but I mean, it was one of those ones that we sort of like renewed every year along with the other one. So I just want to make sure that we're crystal clear on what we're doing and why. So more to come on that.
I frankly, and I'm at least a modest student of this, I really don't understand why this is not covered under municipal roads.
Yeah.
So that's for these two specific sites that are demonstrably under 3 acres, as I understand it, Mary Drive at Hidden
Oh,
Pines.
so just to be, no, so to be clear, sorry, maybe in my agenda, I was trying to be clear on the agenda item that Jericho Road doesn't encompass any private property. Mary Drive and Hidden Pines certainly do encompass private property.
So then my question is, I still am lost as to why these and not any of the other roads in town are similarly situated with permits. So that's item 1. Item 2 is why Jericho Road and not Hinesburg Road or Huntington Road or any of the other roads? I'm kind of lost there. And then item 3. So does the state submit a permit to itself for the interstate Route 89 and Route 2? Because those are larger in scope and arguably impact than any of the sites that we've discussed.
All good questions. I'll try to find some answers. I think I definitely want to know more about why Jericho Road specifically, because it does seem odd that that one is singled out.
Frankly, none of this
Want to go
made
path
sense
for-
to me before, and it strikes
less
me that
sense
it's
now.
making less sense the further we
Not
talk
being
about it.
clarified at all.
Yeah, I have similar questions and I can't figure it out.
I think, failing that, Josh, maybe we need to invite A&R folks back and
Yeah.
address these questions in a public session, because I really, when I think of what impact stormwater coming out of Route 89 collection systems did to our town, I'm gonna say there was clear and evident damage from those stormwater collection systems in at least 2 locations that was substantial, expensive, and extensive.
Mhm.
So I'm scratching my head why we're dealing with Jericho Road and not those, and
Yeah,
what
why not
the
Governor
standard
Peck?
is.
It's right up there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the supervisor himself alludes to that in his letter. There's a line down near the bottom here where my guess is this may have never been done by previous consultants, making it even more important to understand how much impervious surface was actually constructed for the entire development, et cetera. So, have they got things in their files that they don't have any documents in them? It sounds like there's an ongoing problem at that end of non-inspection.
Yeah.
So.
Including, I'd like to see their own inspections and permits. I mean, ultimately, and I don't mean this to be disingenuous, but seriously,
As
if
part of
you
the
saw
others.
the 2 areas of damage up by the REIT property and in Jonesville,
Oh, yeah.
those are take homes. It's hard to unsee the damage that came directly from the interstate stormwater management system.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Are we ready to move on to G?
Is there something in the chat? I just wanted,
Looks like there are 4 something.
Yeah, I think they were older though. Yeah, thank you to Linda. And I think the support. Not sure.
Okay. Update on the process to submit the notice of intent and permit application for the stormwater general permit 33-9050 for the Southview subdivision.
So hired Watershed Consulting to do this work. I think their total is just over $32,000, which comes in right about where the grant will cover. So if you give them the go ahead to start that process to get the minimal submitted as quickly as we can to the state, including notice of intent, and then continue to move forward with the full review to get the full permit up to speed and submitted, which will probably take a few months because I know there's some on-ground inspections they need to do that snow will certainly make challenging.
could you show where the link to the page, the
Oh,
information?
and the page, yeah, let me share that.
And we pledged to keep the residents informed. Do we want at this point, are we far enough along where we should be sending an update letter? Because as was said before, not everybody is on social media. Not everybody joins these calls.
Yeah, so if you go here, you go down to the news section. I've got the stormwater permits here pinned. And in here, we've got, I tried to break it into sections. So Southview files, Hidden Pines and Mary Drive, orphan permit information, and then there's some general information like the list of 3 acre sites. Trying to put any pertinent emails or documents into this landing page here. I can work on an overview maybe for the board to kind of approve as far as a letter to the residents. I think it'd be good to get some other eyes on that as far as where we're at, and then we can put that on the next agenda if that's helpful.
Yeah, I would personally very much appreciate that because I think the residents who live up there had a point about why did we not know about this? And at this point, I would rather bend over backward to share information, even if there is a slight cost, than repeat that.
No, I'll work on a letter for that and bring it back to the next one. Also, I want to thank Sarah, who's here this evening. She's got a really good email list of a lot of residents up there. I know she's been disseminating information, and as soon as we have the agenda, she sends it out to everybody too. So thanks for passing that word along to the residents. I appreciate it.
Right. So noting that our attorney still recommended that we not do this, I think we should do it thoughtfully and, conscious of the implications. I think it's still my position that when we submit the notice of intent, we should have some caveats above our signature, and they can read it however they want, and we can read it the way we wrote it.
Yeah.
It says, this is pending resolution of how to pay for the improvements to private property. And having heard a lot of resistance to resurrecting or creating a homeowners association in other towns, this then became the private property owners paying through some prorated share. That vehicle doesn't exist either. So I think that ought to be something as we move forward with what would it look like and what would it cost. I think we should move forward with some overt discussions of how would we pay for it. That would include, sort of the legal authority and the financial mechanism to do that. Because right now that seems like kind of a black box.
Right.
Yeah. We have a question in the chat. I think that's what we were speaking to a few minutes ago with the interstate through the REIT property and
Jonesville.
yeah. And the answer is
We've been trying.
we're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would not be unfair to say the state's been kind of giving us the runaround.
Yeah. But we haven't forgotten.
I don't think they've said yes, but I'm not sure they've said no either.
Yeah, it seems like at least on the REAP property and the Willis Farm, they've at least been engaged in the process and somewhat helpful. It seems like at least some of the feedback from the Richmond Land Trust folks. Less so at Jones Mill, a lot less so.
Yeah. Okay, are we ready to move on? Next is item H, consideration of approving a contractor for the Tilden Avenue Stormwater Project. Josh, did you want to walk us through this?
Yeah, so this is a 100-year-old pipe that the town put in as a combined stormwater and wastewater collection system. And over the last 20 years or so, the town has sort of rediscovered the pipe and up in this Tilden area has claimed some responsibility for it to kind of get it disconnected from sewer, make it only wastewater. So the town has a history of identifying the pipe as ours and taking it on for ourselves. Yeah.
You said disconnected from sewer, so it's only wastewater.
So it's only stormwater. I'm
Stormwater.
sorry. Yes, disconnected from wastewater, so it's only stormwater. So there's still a portion of this pipe that's in the back of a house on Tilden Ave that the inlet continues to get overrun in high flow events, high rain events, and that water will overrun the inlet, run down into a property that's down below that, and flood into the basement, into the garage. We've tried to clean it out, we've tried to scope it, we've tried to do what we can to fix this. Ultimately, we haven't been able to find a solution other than rerouting the pipe and putting it directly down the driveway, because right now it sort of goes kind of behind the house and around, and it's an old pipe, probably crushed in places. So the plan is to put a new pipe straight down the driveway to connect it to the current system. And then that'll go down the road to a structure where we'll enter the main system. Pete had initially planned to do this with in-house labor and get it all done, but the flood blew that out of the water. No more time for that. So we got some engineering plans together with Tyler Billingsley, got it bid. We only had one bidder. Pete thought it was, and Pete bought all the structures, he bought the culverts ahead of time. So there's no materials to buy. This is literally labor and machines. Pete had thought it was probably about a $50,000 job. Tyler, who's our engineer, talked to a couple other contractors who didn't bid, but they thought it was more like 65,000. And the bid we got was 89,500. So Pete would like to reject that bid and go back out to bid over the summer, over the winter for construction in the summer. And also uniquely, this was a mandatory pre-bid meeting and they were the only bidder that showed up. So they knew they were going to be the only one submitting a bid. I've talked with the resident, who the Witters is, and they agree that like, they're like, yeah, wait, get a better price on it and do it later. In the interim, people propose to go up and dig a bit of a swale so that if the water, or when it does overflow again, it'll go down the driveway, which is sort of what the Christie and Sean have already done. They sort of created a bit of a channel of their own. Pete would just make that a little bit better again for the winter. Another option is, since they were an only bidder, I think we can go back to them and say, hey, we're gonna reject the bid unless you do it for $60,000. And if they say, okay, I don't know if they would, but they could hold on to the project if they wanted to. Otherwise, I think we'll just go out to bid. Again.
Time.
So, first question, how soon can Pete put that temporary swale in?
Before winter.
Okay. I personally think that it would not be a bad idea to approach Hutchins and say, would you bring the price down? Otherwise, we're gonna reject.
Yeah.
Since the Witterses are okay with waiting till the spring, I would like to see if we can get it cheaper.
I would just say from the construction side, I think we just go back to bid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Asking them to drop the price and it's
Unrealistic, okay,
bad form. Specific type of companies that do that, so we don't want to be one of them.
okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
not that, yeah.
No, I
Not a
mean,
bad
I defer to
idea,
the
just-
people who do this for a living.
Yeah, I would just put it back at bid. And I think that's, I guess my only regret is that we had the same conversation with the pickleball and I didn't hold my ground on that one, going back up to bid. So.
June, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Little different though.
Lesson learned, a little different.
I mean, I think that because the pickleball court folks didn't know they were the only bidder,
It's true.
right? And this, and
Yeah.
they knew they're the only
That's a
bidder.
good point, yeah.
And I think pickleball is a little more niche than the stormwater project,
Yeah.
where there should be a lot of bidders.
Is it, all the bid documents are prepared already, right? So
Yeah.
it would be reissuing the exact same bid documents, so it should go through the bid.
Same bid, change the dates. Yeah, it'll be pretty easy.
June, go ahead.
So I just wanted to point out the irony in the fact that we are talking about a stormwater infrastructure issue that all of us in the town will pay for as property owners in the town. But the state mandates a 3-acre rule, which is an unfunded initiative. And that will be the burden of just a few property owners across the state. So is there any initiative on the part of the town to push back? Because this doesn't seem quite fair. I know people have said they don't want to pay for issues that are happening in Southview, except that all the other stormwater issues are paid for residents across the town.
Bard?
The one observation I would make is that this was historically, this pipe, for better and worse, perhaps, was actually designed and installed by the town about a century ago. So that is one difference. It's an existing system that was put in place by the town. And I think the legal precedent is if you bought it, you broke it, you own it. As opposed to and that was a very different time when the village was separate from the town, and the village is where lots of stuff happened. Perhaps that's an historical accident. I will agree, it's not necessarily fair or equitable, but it illustrates my point about why is Route 2 itself not a 3-acre permit for the state, or Huntington Road, or any of the other roads. It would seem to me, June's point is some of this is arbitrary, if not capricious, which then leads to the question of how do we get feedback? And perhaps what we should do is invite again our elected representatives at the legislature and say, so what we're asking you to take action, take this back to the legislature, will you agree to do that?
Oh,
That
great,
would be
thank
sort
you.
of your point, I think, June, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I would second Bard's comment about arbitrary and capricious.
Yeah.
And the people from the state who came to the meeting at the library, their attitude that, well, we're going to be able to achieve our stormwater goals by just victimizing these people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but that was their sense.
Yeah. it was
And
pretty
that's
close.
not even remotely fair.
Well, especially when I think about the Route 89 problems,
Mhm.
those are only two that we know of in our town.
Mhm.
And there is direct evidence of damage and infrastructure failures there, where it would appear the issues at Southview are hypothetical. I'm not aware of any documented
Right.
evidence
That's a good
of
point, yes,
erosion
exactly.
or silt infiltration into
Or
waterways.
even complaints.
Right.
Yeah.
So not is it only unfair, there's not even a science behind this action, whatever that needs to be done in Southview will have an impact on what we're trying to make an impact on. But we do know that they're not taking action against any action against agriculture, which we know has a significant impact on our clean water. So I'm just putting that out there.
No, yeah, you're right.
I certainly don't disagree, Jim. I think you're completely right. I think Bart's point ties into that we know there's a catastrophe happening here, here, and here.
Yeah.
But we're going after this because 50 years ago, there was a permit up there.
So I'm struck, David, this is like looking for your lost car keys under the street light.
Because the light's better, even though. they're
Because the
down the
light's
alley.
better, and yeah, you may have lost them in the stream over there, but I'm gonna look over here because I can see over here.
Mhm.
And it perhaps is not that obtuse, but that's what it looks like. So, that's my recommendation. We can have that as a follow-up. Maybe that falls into, items for the next or a future agenda, is to bring back our elected representatives with a specific ask that we want a remedy of either changing the statute and rule or funding it from the state coffers versus private or town. I'll also remind people, if I recall correctly, there were 6
Yes,
acre permits within the town of Richmond.
right.
And so the other 5 might be interested in this.
Well, they don't all have town roads in them, as I recall, like Caterpillar. It's a 3-acre permit site, but there's no town roads there, right?
Well, so right, they don't have a partnership with the town,
Mhm.
but I would observe they might take the same view. If I'm
Like, why
not
us, right?
contributing to the problem, and yet you're right,
keep saying
Caterpillar,
that.
you
I
can
mean,
literally look across.
There is pretty
fields.
clear evidence that like unstagnated runoff has phosphorus in it. So while this isn't the most effective treatment and it's just the treatment that the areas that they have jurisdiction over,
Right.
Yeah,
there is science that does show that treating runoff and allowing it to stagnate for a while does prevent phosphorus. So I'm not saying there's no science behind it. It might be bad science. It might be the best science that they could fund for other people's money. There's no science.
I'm just saying the scale.
Yeah. that
So
makes
I'm
sense.
gonna prevent, like, if we were thinking about car traffic, I'm gonna prevent maybe 1 car accident by doing this. And 1,000 car accidents over here. I don't know how to deal with that, so I'm leaving it alone.
If someone else
Very good
pays for it,
point.
it's free. So.
Yeah.
someone free
Has
for
this
it.
been discussed at recent CCRPC board meetings?
I actually asked, the staff at CCRPC to pull the small town planners to see if there was an interest in this. And part of the challenge is the municipalities are situated differently. Some of them literally have stormwater management districts,
Mhm.
and they've already had this stuff in place town-wide and ways of having people pay for it. So it's the small towns disproportionately that don't have that legal infrastructure and financial infrastructure to deal with it.
So the thing in the chat,
Yeah.
I don't have the answer, Josh. do.
I mean, I think that's the question we were trying to ask at the last meeting. About the covenants and how they would play into the payback.
Yeah.
So I don't know, do we know yet?
Yeah. Are we ready to move on? So next is item I, consideration of approval of amendments to the Andrews Community Forest Committee bylaws.
David, one thing. Josh, you said you didn't include, back to the building, you said you didn't include a motion. Do you need a motion for us to read it, or can you just read that?
Yeah, I didn't include a motion. No, I think if you guys generally, I mean, you could make a motion, just to
Or it's
reject it.
consensus.
Or if it's consensus, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Because we're not accepting.
You're not accepting it, so I could just tell them, sorry, we rejected and moving on. I don't think they're gonna fight us on it. Thank you, though. Good point of clarification. All right.
Did you guys want to come up?
Those donuts are available, by the way. Inside here.
So next we have consideration of approval of amendments to the Andrews County Forest Committee bylaws. A tracked changes version of the bylaws are included in the packet. Ian, did you want to?
Certainly I can speak to this and by way maybe of explanation, the select board did approve some changes to the bylaws in May of this year. And they were rather substantial because they related to the quorum of our committee. This time, I would characterize the requested changes as being along the lines of clarifying and defining membership and how membership is, how people can become members of the committee. There were some ambiguities and maybe misunderstandings, misinterpretations in the past. And this is an effort to define things more clearly. Initially, the wording seemed to require clarification to establish that it is the select board which makes appointments to this committee. There had been, I would say, the misunderstandings in the past may be related to that process. So the intent there is to clarify that responsibility, that authority. That was actually discussed with Josh, who was very, very helpful in explaining how to make our bylaws consistent with the way that other town committees operate. So in the process of doing that, we clarified that the standard term is 3 years and it runs from June until May, consistent with the normal town arrangement. And also, but that also required provisions for filling midterm appointments. And there had actually been some ambiguous or some confusing language, which originated way back in the past when the interim committee became an authorized committee. So at that point, there were terms that weren't necessarily 3 years. Anyway, that should be now clear in the proposed revisions. The other main issue relates to a rather specific characteristic of our committee, that we have representation from the Trails Committee and also the Conservation Commission. And in one case, a member of the commission would serve on our committee. And also there's a procedure whereby the committee and the commission can recommend a member when a vacancy appears. So that language has been clarified, I believe, with a lot of help from Josh, I would add, to ensure consistency and accuracy. And then just one final thing, we noticed that there was a repetition of language relating to the 2/3 majority in order to make decisions or pass motions in the committee. So that the second occurrence of that, there we are right at the very end, we deleted the repetition of that. So a rather lengthy explanation maybe for changes which I believe should be helpful to our committee and should help to establish consistency with town policy.
Jay?
So I note that on this page that we have up, I see the item D reference 2/3. We've deleted 4B, or we would be deleting 4B, which requires 2/3. I have not been to or watched a great many ACF meetings for lack of time. Have you found that requiring a 2/3 majority has some cases been a barrier to getting things done. Is 2/3 working well for you? I mean, kind of, it's the only committee in town that I know of that requires a 2/3.
I haven't witnessed personally a problem. I don't know if Melissa has, who served on the committee longer than me. So this would relate to this not being standard procedure in the town, this being apparently specific to our committee. I hadn't appreciated that.
Yeah, it's the only committee I know of that does that. Not that that's wrong, it's just unique.
I anticipate that it might.
Yeah.
So my question is a similar vein. So 2/3 majority still appears on page 1 under, I'm frankly finding the sequence here difficult, 2AI1.
To get their secretary and to approve the chair.
Yeah, and then on the following page, item II, I'm not sure why 2/3 majority makes sense some of the time and not other times. Why wouldn't we just say simple majority across the board and revise all of those places?
The
Good
only thing
question.
I can think of in the past, this is that some of the issues people were feeling are so high tension and high value that they wanted more than a simple majority. So that's what I think, where I think that came from. And I think it will make it more difficult for us to make decisions possibly in the future.
With
Is that a
2/3
benefit
and 1/2. With which one?
Oh, with 2/3 possibly. I'm not sure.
A consensus.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think of 2/3?
Well, it is unique out of the town committees, and I personally don't see an overriding justification for having it. I was kind of wondering if there is some historical justification for why 2/3 is needed. I would be inclined to say, why can't this be like every other committee in town and just go by majority of the quorum present?
There's a lot of interest being represented there, so.
Yeah, I'm not, if there's a reason.
More
for it.
difficult than usual to get a 2/3 majority, so.
And most decisions that will be implemented into policy would come to the select board for review also. So there is two iterations of review that
Yeah.
require formal
2 sets of
vote.
eyes.
So
Yeah.
2/3 seems less important than if that
Mhm.
decision were to stand
That's a good point, yeah.
uncritiqued
There's a
again.
backup, essentially, backstop.
Well, so an example, planning commission.
Exactly. Simple majority, right?
And that is perhaps the most judicial
Yes. That's a good
body
point.
we have outside the
Well,
select
yeah,
board.
majority of
That-
7.
Well, but it's simple majority,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that is arguably the most cogent financial legal decisions,
Yeah, I
like,
agree.
I'm either approving this permit or I'm not.
I
This,
don't really see the benefit of the 2/3 unless there's a specific reason. I agree that simple majority might be more, it might be more workable for you guys too, depending
Right.
on what quorum there is and how it's worded. It doesn't sound like it's 2/3 of the quorum. It would be 2/3 of the members, right?
Mhm.
So you could have a quorum, and if one dissenting vote, you would not be able to pass anything.
Has that 2/3 been a portion of the charter all along? When was that added? From the beginning? Do you know?
Yeah, I'm just, in practice, the committee should, the full complement of committee is 9 people, so a quorum is 5. A simple majority would be 5. 2/3 majority would be 6, so the difference is 1 vote.
But there's
what's the
also a
DRB?
situation where
Same
you could
thing?
have a quorum and even with the unanimous vote,
Not have
decision
2/3.
would carry.
Right.
The 2/3. It just seems, yeah, I agree that I don't see that.
I would advocate for
represented
making it the same as all other town committees.
Majority.
Well, it's not, for what it's worth, it's not universal throughout this document. It's 2/3 of all members. If you look at the top of the last page, under item D, it clearly says approval of all matters requiring committee vote shall require affirmation by a 2/3 majority of those voting members present.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh,
It doesn't say that elsewhere.
So arguably, these things mean different things as written.
yeah.
Well, what if, I mean, it's an interesting point. I wonder if maybe the committee should discuss it, like maybe make these changes, because I think the changes they're asking for tonight are reasonable. and you bring up some new questions about the 2/3, the committee could look at that. I could help them out if you wanted. We could look through it and then come back with some suggestions.
Right, and I would advise, I don't think that's a bad idea, but I noticed that the language here is not consistent. Under renewal or replacement, it says 2/3 majority, but it doesn't say of what. The general understanding in committees is, as long as you have a quorum, a majority vote of the members present is sufficient, but if there's a tradition of it being 2/3 of all the members, and it doesn't clearly state otherwise, we wind up in that limbo where somebody could put their foot down and say, no, it's always 2/3 of all the members. And I think it would be important to state that, to just blow away that precedent and state it consistently in each case, 2/3 of the members present, provided there is a quorum.
And I think just one clarification, I think from open meeting law training, it's a majority of the full body has to vote to pass something. So if they have 9 members.
Okay, you're right, okay.
Right. And even if they have 9 seats and there's only 7 filled at that time.
No, you're right.
They
Okay.
still need 5 votes, and the select board still needs 3. So if there's only 3 members and 2 vote yes,
No,
and
you're
1 vote
absolutely
no,
right.
it doesn't carry. So no, but I think your point is still well taken, that it's inconsistent in here. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the main thing, is it, by saying it in one place and not on the other, it
invites,
leaves it
yeah,
open
an
to
argument, yeah.
arguing.
Bart? So I would recommend that you consider as a committee, consistency throughout, whatever it means. And I will say, based on the conversation, I think item D at the top of the 3rd page conflicts with state statute. So if there were 3 people there and 2 vote in favor, that's 2/3 of the members present.
You're right.
But you wouldn't have
It would not be illegal,
Right.
it would not be.
But that's what it says.
but you wouldn't have a quorum. You'd have 5, but
It's not what it says.
Oh, no, at the end here, yes,
yeah.
no, Bard's absolutely right. I was wrong and he's right. Where we're saying 2/3 of the member voting present.
Right.
So that could be a sub-majority.
That can't exist as written. So
Right.
since you have to change that to comply with the statute, I would recommend that you consider consistency throughout, and it might be simple majority, or it's going to be 2/3 of the entire membership, which means you could be in a meeting where you can't take any action because you don't have enough. You have to have then at least 2/3 of the people present,
Basically upping your quorum to 2/3.
and they all have to vote unanimously to approve something. That is a standard that I haven't seen in any other committee
That's
or
true.
group.
So yeah, to Josh's point, approving these changes is not a bad idea, but then we would recommend revisiting it to clean up the remaining.
ASAP, because this, again, that one looks to me to be on the face of it inconsistent with statutory obligations, so item D, and then if you're gonna go into that, why not? It's not a 40-page document, thankfully.
Could you make it longer?
It does take a remarkable amount of time, I think, to change it, though. I know you guys have taken some time with it. So.
Oh, and would this committee be open to it, reading as a simple majority consistently throughout the document?
I would.
Yes.
Yes.
Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, given the complexity of the things you guys deal with, I've seen enough of your meetings to know that no wonder you discuss things for 3 or 4 hours. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
Not everybody's gonna be on board. They may not disagree, but they're not sure. And
And we are the court of review that says, if something really harebrained somehow got out of the committee, we would be there to say,
Right.
"Eh?"
right.
And
Yeah,
for
we're
what
good
it's
stuff,
worth,
yeah.
I've served on various boards, commissions, committees. I don't recall ever seeing a 2/3 majority requirement, and that's over 10 or 20 commissions, committees, work groups.
The only 2/3 I can think of is to amend the US Constitution.
Oh,
Yeah, there are some
If we
funky
have one.
ones in Congress, yes.
there we go. The US Constitution and the Andrews Community Forest. Yeah.
Should we
We're on the same.
strive to bring the Andrews Community Forest Committee up to the level of function of US Congress? Is that? Oh, is that not what we're doing?
It's
Majority of it. That was a retort, yes.
if I may, I would say that we should take the advice of the select board and also respect conventions and normal process. with one consideration, which is the point that Melissa raised, which is this desire to make it more difficult than simple majority in order to take action within the
I
committee.
don't think that's a good idea, though.
It was, it seemed like
I
a good
hear you
idea.
repeating it, but I
Okay,
don't think it's a good
okay, so we,
There's
I guess,
great
we can
controversies,
withdraw that.
Dissent, so.
So we could approve this with the clarification of removing the 2/3 majority. We could approve what was amended as brought to us tonight, or we could take no action and have everything come back before us. What's the pleasure of the board?
What works for you guys? Do you need this quickly or?
I get the sense from Ian that he would like to have it.
Yeah.
You'd like to not have to go back and review this again and bring it back,
Well,
right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it is 2
It'll
weeks
take a
wasted.
little
on
longer,
your
but
end.
that's, yeah, you get one answer.
Okay, so what we could do, I'm using the sample motion in the packet would be to say, I move to amend the Andrews Community Forest bylaws as presented, accepting that all references to a 2/3 voting majority be changed to a simple majority.
And then we'd give direction. We're not asking for input. We're just saying do that as well. Yes?
That's
So you could have the motion, modify it just with corrections as discussed, or you could call out the removal of the 2/3 and have it replaced by majority.
Yeah, and you can wordsmith, Bard, you're good at that.
I think it's fine to say all references to 2/3 majority will be changed to refer to simple majority of the members.
Yeah.
I guess I move to amend the Andrews Community Forest bylaws as presented with the amendment that all references to a 2/3 voting majority be rewritten to be a simple majority of committee members.
Second.
Okay.
Further discussion,
yes,
David, I'd point out like, so here's an example. There's 5 people on the select board. If there's 2 people in a meeting, they can't, the 2 of them agree and pass anything. It's got to be a minimum of 3, and then they all have to vote together. If it's 3 and 1 votes against it, it fails because it took 3 out of 5 to get the simple majority.
So we're really only dropping the number of required people by 1 person.
But we're also making it consistent across all committees.
Depending on the
I mean,
language, because there was one that said all people present, so
Oh, true.
if it were.
So we're doing lots of things. We're bringing it into compliance with state statute. We're switching
Oh,
it
yeah,
from 6 to
actually,
5 and
I move to amend the motion to strike the language that says, let's see, where was that part that actually said of the member
so
present?
I guess I was
To
gonna
strike these, to amend section blah 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 D on the last page to say voting approval of all matters requiring committee vote shall require affirmation of a simple majority of the committee.
Yeah.
So Jay, you made the motion.
Well, no, actually,
Well, no,
made the motion.
you made the motion, but
nobody
then-
seconded it.
but that turned into a discussion of the motion, and then Adam made the motion, and then
Then I
Jay, you
seconded it,
seconded the motion.
but now I'm proposing
Oh, I see.
making one more amendment to Adam's motion.
So Jay, you can amend Adam's motion, or we can let that motion fail and we can make a new motion with cleaner language. It's up to it's up to you.
Okay, go ahead.
I withdraw the motion.
Okay.
Okay, take a stab at it.
You know, what?
I thought you were taking back over. We were switching up.
Okay, I can do that and keep me honest. I move to amend the Andrews Community Forest bylaws as presented, except that all references to a 2/3 voting majority be replaced with references to a simple majority, and that the language in section D of section 3D under rules of, under regular meetings, be changed to say a simple majority of the committee members.
Adam, second.
Committee members or committee members present?
Committee members.
Okay. And Adam, you're seconding.
Yes.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, it just hit me that, I mean, there's 3 committees or commissions at those meetings. You got Conservation Commission and Trails Committee, and you got Andrews Community Forest. So yeah, having consistency is maybe more important than usual. So
Yeah.
I didn't think of that till now. And people come in expecting something different. And
Mhm.
You don't need more contention.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, aye.
Bard, aye.
Adam, I.
Jane, I.
And David, I. Thank you. That was a little rough, but I
Thanks, Mark.
think it made sense to
Great.
go through and spell it out.
Could I just ask for one clarification?
Of course.
Is this motion by the select board binding on the committee, or does it go
It's
back
binding.
to our next meeting?
No, it's binding. We
It's
are,
binding,
we,
so,
Gavel, but
so
we could.
we're done, okay.
So maybe if you want, we can edit this.
Yeah.
And then, because it also has to go to the Vermont Land Trust for them to approve bylaw changes. And I think that they approve the changes as presented. I don't know if they'd have a problem with the 2/3, but it has to go to them to be ratified.
Yeah, but we'll give you a clean copy.
We'll work on that.
Thank you.
thank you guys. Thank you for all your work.
Well, Ian, Melissa, thank you for coming.
Oh, they're not done.
We're not done yet.
Don't say goodbye just
Oh, I
yet,
forgot
but
about
wait,
that,
there's
right,
more.
So next, we have discussion of an easement for VELCO for the Andrews Community Forest.
So I put this that it could be an executive session if you like, because it's technically still a negotiation with VELCO, but do you want to present like kind of like what it's about? You might be better versed than I am. I know what I know from.
Say a few
right.
things and then you chime in as well. I'm filling in for Wright Preston, who's done a tremendous job in working through these issues with VELCO around the easement. Unfortunately, we have one piece of outstanding information, which is the changes proposed by the town attorney has been sent to VELCO, but they have not responded back to those changes, which were in your packet. So he had suggested a couple of questions, things to bring up with them. But the main issue is the easement for the right of way. And that comes out at a little higher than 8,000. It's going to be $8,549.45. It's $3.50 a linear foot for the easement. And then we had also asked for additional money for some trail maintenance on the old western end of the Bass Trail, which they occasionally use. They've offered up $2,500 additional for that. And Wright went and asked them for more money for $10,000 because we feel that trail maintenance would be more in line with that cost. They've come back and said, no, they're, a ratepayer funded organization, and this is really as much as they can afford. They have given us a certificate of insurance, letter of agreement. They have agreed to put up some fences around the bridge abutments they left last year and some signs. Am I missing anything?
Split rail fencing, the no ATV signs. Certificate of insurance in case anybody gets injured on their trail there. I think, yeah, you covered it.
Right, so we're just waiting back to hear. My sense is that they're going to say that this $2,500 is their final offer on the additional trail maintenance money. And then it's just a matter of what their response is to the town attorney's suggestions.
I think that's pretty accurate. I don't think the town attorney's suggestions were like out of order. I mean, we'll see what they say. They seem to be fairly sort of simple, like kind of some clarification things to add in. And a little bit of protection from the town, because I think one of them gave VELCO the right to do kind of like to grant it whoever they wanted to. We wanted to at least have a review of who was going up and down there. I think, as Melissa said, the main sticking point is this additional $2,500 that they offered to help do trail repair. And they've said no twice. The committee said, no, we'd rather have $10,000 because our estimates to repair that trail that you're using right now is closer to that. They said no. I replied to them and said, I agree with the committee. We'd like $10,000. They said no again. And they said our offer is basically valid until the end of December. I said, well, I'll go to the select board and if you want and see what you guys want to propose. So that's where, I mean, we can discuss it in an open meeting, or if you wanted to talk about pros and cons in executive session, you could do that, or you could, it's up to you guys what you want to do, because there's a few ways you could go. You could accept it, you could go up to 10,000, you could go more, or you could ask for a middle range.
I don't see a lot of leverage that we've got.
So their existing easement grants them permission to use that vast trail that we're seeking to get money to maintain, right?
Yeah, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think they have access however they want, right? And like the easement is because they want to have a specific road that they can prove and that they can get people, they can get their vehicles up and down. So it's in their interest to have that access improved, and having the easement allows them to do that. They'll still use that ATV trail on occasion. We asked them, can you stop using that? And they said they're unable to, because I think there's certain ways that they have to access that way. Or if it's an emergency, it's a quicker way to get in. So they weren't going to give it up completely, but they were going to greatly reduce.
So basically, they can give us nothing and continue to use it, or they can give us the 2,500 and continue to use it. Or we can ask for 10,000 and we get nothing and they continue to use it. This seems like a good summary. 2,500 isn't great, but
Is it
it's
like-
better than the.
Can they throw in like some cookies or
Better than
something?
nothing. Yeah, like we would have had to put this in there before they got any easements, before the power line was built. And we're kind of stuck with it now, and that's how it is.
I agree with Adam that $2,500 is demonstrably better than nothing.
It's always almost, you would say, infinitely better than zero.
Actually, you're correct, mathematically.
Okay, so there's no motion here, but if we wanted to, do we need to move this?
I think let's wait to hear back from VELCO on the changes from the attorney, and then come back with a fully vetted easement for you. And then, probably hopefully by the next meeting, we can have that completed.
And then, if we maintain the trail and they come through and absolutely tear it up for an emergency, are they like, maybe not contractually obligated to, but like, what's their history of somewhat maintaining things when they do that?
I think they're pretty straight up.
I know, I mean, I have a friend who owns property that has the same power line through it in Milton, and he said that generally they're pretty good, or if they do tear it up, they fix it when they can, but I don't know what our experience is here, is what that's been like.
We haven't had any negative experience that I know of.
And it's,
And at times they've put, I'm not even sure what you call it, the timber pads.
Yeah.
Right?
Look like railroad ties.
When they're moving heavy equipment to avoid churning up the trail or the road, that I recall seeing those at various places that suggest some level of responsibility that not every company might be inclined to pursue.
I think that's a corduroy road, isn't it? Something like that.
Mr. Chairman, I know that we're actually technically 10 minutes ahead of schedule now, so.
Whoa, so we will continue this? Is that kind of? our
Yeah, I think
consensus?
probably as soon as we hear back, we'll come back.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
So next we have consideration of a request to utilize $1,800 or $1,180 from unassigned or ARPA funds for tree work at the Richmond Church Green. Jay?
Mr. Chairman, I note that the actual motion says 1,750.
hold a
That's the
second.
quote, but the committee is requesting 1,180.
Yeah.
So we.
Right, no, so let me explain, and maybe it's an additional ARPA fund. So basically, the select board approved $15,000 in ARPA funds for removal of trees and pruning of trees at the Round Church Green and Volunteers Green and Browns Court. To date, $14,430 of that money has been spent, so there's a remaining balance of about $570. So the request for 1,180 is for additional ARPA funds over what's already been approved. They would use the remaining 570 plus the 1,180 to get them up to their 1,750 to do the pruning of the Norway maple. And Fran's here, she can provide more information, but he just gave a little applause, so I might have gotten that right.
Okay, can I speak now?
Yes, go ahead.
After they did some pruning all around town, using the $15,000, we had the I would say Caitlin, the tree warden, and I kind of talked to them a little bit more about the tree that is right next to the Round Church, and which they did do some cabling on. There are some branches that come pretty close to the Round Church, and if they were to fall, they would hit the church and probably break some windows and do some damage. So they came back. We had Jeff from ARPA come back and do a more detailed look at the tree, the report of which you have before you. And so the two options really are to prune it now and to watch the tree. And every couple of years, really see what the condition of the tree is, or to take the tree, down, which would be significant expense to do that. So the Three Parks Committee, really, we're fine with having them, if there's funds, do a better job pruning the tree. And then the town needs to, maybe not next year, but the following year, keep a watch on the tree and maybe have Acer or someone come back and look at the tree, because it has a number of sort of trunks that come up to make the tree, and there is some hollowing out in some spots. So eventually the tree is going to have to go, but right now it does provide scenery accent to the round church, but so the Three Parks Committee would like to endorse having the additional work done to prune it. Historical Society, I sent them the report. We're not meeting until Wednesday. My sense is, I can't really speak for them, that they would go along with pruning the tree as long as the town commits to regular inspections of the tree. And that's something the town should be doing for all trees that are, can affect town property.
Thank you, Fran. Any questions or comments?
I'm just pleased that this work is being done, and thank the Three Parks Committee for their diligence.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the use of, well, again, how
Yeah,
to phrase
I
this.
kind of messed it up, I guess. Maybe say an additional $1,180.
I move to approve the use of an additional $11,180 from ARPA funds for the pruning of the Norway maple at the Round Church Green.
Thank you, Jay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. Motion made by Jay, seconded by Lisa. Any further discussion? Hearing none, calling the motion to a vote. Please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, aye.
Bart, aye.
Adam, I.
Jay, I.
And David, I.
Fran, I had one quick question. Is there a plan this tree sounds like it's maybe not on its last legs, but it's kind of getting there. Is there a plan to replace it with something long-term or get something else growing, or is there not really room to do that?
Part of that is really the bailiwick of the town tree warden. It's not the tree is on Round Church property, but the town owns the Round Church and that property. And so, the Historical Society can only, express our opinions. And if the tree were ever to come down, certainly we would, and we felt it was in danger of the church, I think the Historical Society would certainly volunteer to help pay for part of getting it down. But right now, there's not really any spot there where you could plant a new one yet. Because it's a limited, if you're looking at the Round Church, it's on the right, and it's somewhat close to the road. It's near our handicap access to the south side of the church. And then there's the home and what used to be the antique shop right near there. So, we'd have to look again, what's our property and what is the homeowner's property.
Gotcha. So the only place that you can put a tree that doesn't block the Round Church view is occupied by this tree.
Yeah, I would say so.
Awesome. Thank you, Fran.
Thank you.
Are we ready to move on?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about parking.
So we might want to touch on this, but bring it back to the next agenda too. This was brought to my attention by some members of the Catholic Church's Buildings and Grounds Committee. And they're concerned about the exit from the church on US Route 2. We prohibited parking to the left of that exit, so sort of the east side, to provide a better line of sight. Went through a process with the select board and the community to receive feedback, provided that feedback to V-Trans, went through their committee's process to get that approved by the V-Trans committee, and then they installed the no parking signs. So the members of the committee at the church have the request of putting some hash marks in there to better delineate that there's no parking, and also to consider parking to the west side, which would be to your right-hand side as you're exiting the church, so you can have a better line of sight for oncoming traffic from Route 2 on your right. However, no members of the committee were able to make it to this evening's meeting, so they'd probably like a chance to discuss it, but we can talk here briefly and maybe bring it back.
Art?
Just for the sake of facts, I'm looking at Google Earth, like how far down Route 2 forever? Like no parking
Wow.
further out Route 2?
That, yeah, I think that's subject to be discussed, right? I know when we talked about this initially, I believe we talked about no parking on either side of the exit, and then landed on where we landed, which was just that area between the two entrances, between this one and the doctor's office.
So that's especially important right there, because I've pulled out of that driveway myself a lot, and you cannot see to the left.
Mhm.
If you pull out and you discover a vehicle, they're
too late.
already doing 20, 25, 30 miles an hour, and you're done. So to the right, you can see.
Yeah.
And it's also the other lane. So if you're pulling into that lane, you at least have the chance to get out into the road and then stop, if something's coming.
Yeah.
So
And-
just that north side of Route 2 there is bad.
And I'll just note, if I remember correctly, and I'm looking at the image correctly, the widest part of the shoulder is closest to the exit. So the further down you go, the more likely you are to be in the traveled portion of the highway.
Jay?
I noted that the state says we don't want to stripe it because of ongoing maintenance. The Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices says that you can use yellow paint on the curb to indicate a no parking zone. I think that's a lot less maintenance than putting it on the surface people drive on.
Yeah.
And the sign that says no parking
Yeah,
here to here.
the MUTCD says if you're gonna use a yellow curb, you should supplement it with signs. The
Yeah.
signs are there.
No
So I
parking.
think we send somebody out with a bucket of yellow paint and we're done.
Lisa?
The black pickup truck that's usually there
Mhm.
is
With the
someone who
trailer?
lives in that apartment building right there in front of it. It's really convenient. So they need to maybe start getting some
Yeah,
parking
we need
tickets.
to issue tickets, but
Yeah.
short term, so people know what a yellow curb is. And if the signs are there, like, I have to
Exactly, you're right. That's
If
universal.
they've been living in this village for 500 years and that's always been able to park, the signs are just are part of the background. So that would be my suggestion, is get out there some yellow paint and meanwhile start issuing tickets.
Yeah, and I did,
One question is, I know that we've already just designated this a no parking zone, but if they've been parking, people have been parking there since I've lived in Richmond for 12 years. And the same people with huge trucks and stuff, and not that we all want to encourage that, but if the guy has like a dump trailer, he obviously works with it for a living. Where is he supposed to park it?
Wow.
Like, there's not room there. So what is he just not supposed
Just
to?
push it, drive it further down and park it right in front of the church.
Mhm.
But it doesn't
Which is a
fit
parking zone.
Because the trailer is 8 feet wide and it fits there and doesn't fit down
Yeah,
there. where
because
a
it's
normal car
narrower
would
down
fit.
there.
We've created a solution where so he has to like have a small car that then parks his truck at an office and then drives there. Like, this is ridiculous.
I
that
don't
we've
want to
taken
die
away
because
parking.
of it, though.
I don't know.
I mean, it's
who
just
owns
a
the
collision,
parking
but
behind,
it's
that's the
hard.
apartment building?
So they only have these 4 spots and these are all owned by
Yeah,
this
so how many apartments are there?
6.
So they gotta figure out, that's what the implication is. If you have park in front, you gotta
It's
park
just,
there.
this strikes me that this isn't a no parking zone for everyone in town. This is a no parking zone for the only spot that you can have come home from work in a rush with the trailer. and
It's a
park.
safety
looks-
issue
it
for
looks like
everybody.
more than
that
4 to
uses
me.
that.
He can't park there
There's
overnight,
2,
can he?
and there's a third.
Well, he apparently
Yeah,
has
but they
been,
do all
just
the
not
time.
getting
People have been
ticketed.
parking there for like a decade.
That's true.
There's also people in parking there well before that, and we've never responded to a single accident of anyone pulling out of there. So the fact that it's a safety issue, this strikes me as it's kind of a safety issue, like the Cochran Road intersection, where it's like, oh, it's all these accidents.
Or the hypothetical
Thousand-
massive damage from Southview floodwater.
Adam, I want to make sure, are you talking about parking like in this area here?
Yeah, and down
'Cause-
further.
Okay, because I say like the no parking zone
That is the truck.
starts. Yeah, I think
That's the exact.
that is the
right.
truck. But I think the no parking zone actually is only between the driveways.
I mean,
Right.
I've seen it parked in the whole.
So
stretch.
there's-
No, I believe you're right, Josh.
There's the ability to
I mean,
park
so I
here
guess
still.
I don't think that, obviously, we don't want to like make a truck parking zone for everyone in town. That's not having a truck, that would be awesome, but I don't think that's reasonable. But I mean, is there a way we can designate that as parking for the apartment center or something? So we're not.
And
Like
I don't,
it's-
I tell you what, I really object to trying to pull out of there. I go to church there and several
Well,
times.
I'm not pitching that we turn the whole thing into a parking, we get rid of.
No,
the
I'm talking
parking
about
space.
that one black truck. I can't see it.
That's true.
There's no way to see it around it,
Even if
over
he's
it.
parked
or past
between, even if he's parked between on the other side of the.
If he's parked on the other side, that's fine.
He's
I
parked-
don't care
if
too
he's-
much about traffic coming from the interstate end. I mean, coming.
But if he's
east
parked
of
way
it, too.
down here, that's the entrance to the medical
Yeah,
building.
if he, yes, exactly. Now,
You
this is
should
the exit.
here.
Yes.
For what it's
the
worth,
exit
the
section is
people on the
parking
call
right
can't
there.
see what you guys are
I
looking
can't
at.
see to
We've
pull out
got the
there.
map up there on
You
the
guys
screen.
talking?
We reference based on
Yeah.
what's on the screen.
Yeah, between those two lanes, there's the entrance right there. That's the no parking area.
This is.
So shouldn't you be pulling in to the lower one? And then go, when you leave, exit through the shared driveway between the church and the medical building? And
Yeah,
then when
that's
you leave,
Where the problem.
there's
is.
no cars to the left.
That's the plan.
Yeah, so parking's still allowed between Richmond Family Medicine and Jericho Road.
Yes.
Yes,
In
within
that
reason,
one
obviously
stretch.
not blocking the
that
parking
would
lot.
be,
It's 2 or 3 vehicles.
yeah, I think that would be okay.
So again, we might wanna, I mean, next week, I think we'll have some members of their committee to kind of better understand their concerns. You know, they were more thinking of up in this area, and like, do they want to reduce or prohibit parking here, so as you exit, you can see up there better.
My subjective observation is mostly when I see people park there, it's when there are church events. That's my personal observation, living in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
Can Jesus park there?
Tithe for tickets.
anywhere.
Churches do.
We're not even
It's
gonna
work.
speak for that, like,
So
Okay.
I think some more discussion here, and thank you guys for considering.
Josh, you want to give us an update on the new speed study for Hinesburg Road?
Sure. So I talked to CCRPC a bit after we've talked in a couple meetings about Hinesburg Road, and there's still reports of excessive speed and desire to reduce the speed. We did a speed study in 21 that reduced the speed limit from the intersection of Huntington Road up to just south of Mansfield Way, from 45 to 40 miles an hour. I asked CCRPC if they could consider redoing the speed study, because primarily that was a year after COVID, so we were still in the middle of COVID and traffic habits were probably still affected, so they agreed that they're gonna refresh that study here sometime this fall. It should have a report for us in a few months. We'll see if it results in a lower speed limit. I would not want to get people's hopes up. A lot of times these speed studies don't result in that. But I think we could also make the argument that, you know, we've got effectively 3 speed limits on a road that within a couple miles of each other, because you turn on from Huntington Road, it's 40. You get up the Mansfield Way, it's 45, and then you get into Hinesburg,
And it's 35.
35. So let's see if we can find some consistency. Unfortunately, speed studies don't always act in a logical manner, or what we consider logical,
But
but
whatever
they're gonna do it.
The algorithm the state uses to say it should be 35 here. If they're consistent, which you just said they are, it should also mean 35 over the town line.
Yeah.
And that's obviously what the people who live there would like.
And I think the problem is though, I don't know how they did their speed study in Hinesburg. It might have been in-house. I mean, we always go to
They just set it at
CCRPC.
35, right? They don't
They might.
have to follow state statute. They can choose to.
But we
Yeah,
can't,
problem-
if the
so-
tickets written for violating the speed are not enforceable
Right, that's the problem.
Unless people just pay them.
unless people just pay.
Yeah. And then I think there's an odd statute that if you, what is it, if you lower the speed limit and it's that way for like 10 years, even without a study, it becomes law. I forget exactly. There's like a weird nuanced thing that,
Mr. Peabody, let's jump in the time machine.
yeah,
Most Vermont law ever.
yeah, right, yeah.
Do it, but if you do it and get away with it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Long enough.
As long as you give somebody a gallon of maple syrup, it's all good. So we'll get a speed study. I think some point this winter we'll have the report, and then we can kind of take steps from there. But something's moving forward on Hinesburg Road, I should say.
That's better.
Thank you.
So next is consideration of approving an engineer for flood mitigation study.
So you might remember back in the spring, actually, I guess it was in the winter even, put in a grant application for FEMA Advanced Assistance for flood mitigation with the idea that they would study the Winooski River. We received that grant in the spring. We're quickly flooded again before I could get the RFP out. Got the RFP out in August for engineer work, and We also included the tributaries of Jones Mill Brook, Snipe Island Brook, and Huntington River, knowing that we had some significant flooding events, especially on Jones Mill and Snipe Island in the most recent flooding. We received 2 bids. We had an SLR bid at $125,000 and Stone Environmental at $124,766. In reading through the 2 bids, I really appreciated the detail that Stone Environmental put into their response. They really spent a lot of time going into how they would study the rivers, public outreach, the process to do that, and then how they would get to their results. They also indicated they were going to study all the tributaries sort of up to their town line or even further on Huntington River to make sure that there wasn't anything going on in Huntington that could help us solve problems here in Richmond. So I'd recommend that we move forward with Stone. There is a little bit of a wrinkle on this one that FEMA and the state are really looking for projects by a November 18th deadline for the state so they can get applications ready for like a construction of some sort into or final design for FEMA in January. And they were hoping that they would get a lot of projects out of this grant that they gave to towns to study. However, our project is of a scope that's going to take 6 or more months to complete, so we can't hit the November deadline. I talked with some representatives from the state, and they said there's a few options around that we could submit at least something small by November. And we have a couple of culverts already that they said would probably qualify. And Stone said that they could help us probably with a smaller project and then still complete the larger study. There's also a possibility that FEMA is going to move their January deadline to July. And if that's the case, then the state's deadline is April 30th. And we'd have a more likely ability to submit a more robust project at that point and then follow up with more information once the study completed, which for Stone is looking like June of 2025. There is an outside possibility that we get to November and the state says, well, that's it, you missed the deadline and the project has to end. At that point, any cost incurred to that date would be paid, including the match, which is being paid by the state. So the town wouldn't be out any money. We would then have a decision point of do we want to complete the project with town funds. However, in talking with the representatives from the state, I think that's a really unlikely scenario. They want to see the money used. They want to see these projects come to fruition, and the deadlines, I think they can work with us.
Questions, comments?
Well, I note that the one from SLR has some fairly detailed documentation of projects that they have done in Vermont. And I'm not challenging your recommendation. I'm just saying the Stone has a lot of information about projects that the engineers and hydrologists have done around the world, but they don't have as much detail about projects that they've worked on in Vermont. And
It's interesting.
yeah, if you look at the SLR one, honestly, about half of it is maps and so forth of Vermont related, well, maybe not half, but there's a lot of stuff here about Vermont related projects they've done. Has Stone done, I mean, they've got stuff here saying they've done work in Somalia, which I don't deny that's impressive, but do they have a lot of experience with communities here in Vermont?
I really don't know anything more than what they responded here.
Good question.
I do know that when I talked to my contact who's at the state who's been helping, he said that, either firm is very well qualified to do the work. And I did notice that too, that SLR had a lot of more local responses.
Right.
I was a bit concerned though that their mapping only showed going up like a half mile on each of the tributaries. And I think that we need to go to the end of the tributaries to make sure that, there's potentially some flood mitigation that can happen further upstream on those.
Oh, yeah. That's the
And
place to
because
intercept the
it said
water.
like mapped project as, that doesn't seem like it
Yeah.
goes quite far enough.
Well, I note that their bids are
Yeah.
$244 apart.
Because that was the max grant amount too, so it was
Okay.
kind of an inside track for all the bidders.
Okay, so there's not a big financial incentive to pick one over the other. If we were to talk to SLR, I don't know if this is legal when you're talking about bidding. If we said to SLR, we want you to go further up the tributaries.
Yeah.
So is that really the main thing, the distance on the tributaries?
Yeah, that was what was, I wanted to make sure they got a full scope of distributaries.
What do you guys
But
think? Is the fact that Stone is already prepared to go all the way up the tributaries and SLR didn't say that they would, is that in your mind reason enough to go with one or the other?
It is to me. I think that's where a lot of the.
I mean, I'm not
problems
saying not
start.
to, so.
I would be most concerned about timelines of both of them and with staffing and current project load, and I don't know if we get into that in this, but that would be my biggest
Well,
concern.
Stone did say they could complete it by June, and I think that SLR was not until like October.
Okay, now that's,
That would be a bigger.
That's worth $234.
And arguably they're related. If you expand the scope, they might say, oh, we could do that, but it would take longer.
Mhm.
I mean, arguably.
It's more work.
So I'd be inclined speed based on what we've discussed and the extension. Now, if I understand correctly, if they're gonna look at Jones Mill, they're going under the interstate, aren't they?
They would have to, yeah.
I'm just sort of intrigued because one of the problems is where it goes under the interstate.
and do we even have the right to start digging under the interstate?
I don't think
No,
we're gonna
it's
dig,
a
we're just
study.
say,
Yeah.
maybe that's where a
Okay.
solution is within the interstate right of way,
Mhm.
which would be an interesting finding.
Yeah, my understanding is some of the solutions can be culvert upsizes, making things into bridges, or even looking at lowering land, like we were on a site visit for the bid process up on Snipe Island, and Wright Preston was actually showing us sort of where some rivers come together, and they were looking at this field going, what if we lowered this field? And
So
Wright,
just-
Wright was like, time out, we can talk, but like the idea would be if they lowered land in a certain area, there's more flood water to
Yeah,
like
slow it down.
pull
It's a
and
catch
slow
basin.
down. Catch basin, yeah. So there's a number of potential projects that can come out of this.
Catch field.
And one of
Right.
one of them could be, hey, I-89's gotta increase the size of that culvert, and that would help. I mean, I guess nothing's mandatory, but they would say, if it was increased, this is what the
Well,
result would be.
Another thing about having that catch field up on
Spanish.
Snipe Island is if you plant it with the right kind of plants, it slows the water down a lot, and that was
Mhm.
part of the problem
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
past time because the water was coming so fast, it just wiped out
Mhm.
Red Barn Lane and Lily Pond.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and again, all of that comes with, easements and landowner permission. I mean, there's a big study that happened in Waterbury where they looked upstream and they found a farmer's field that would reduce flooding by a
but they
couple of
would
feet.
sell.
But they wouldn't sell because they use it for their horses. So, I mean, reasonable reason. So, but I think that we won't know unless we have the study, and then we can find some solutions and see which ones of those will work out.
Well, based on the statement about speed,
Mhm.
I would be inclined to go ahead and support the Stone bid then. Mr. Chairman, I move to enter into an agreement with Stone Environmental to complete a flood mitigation study at a cost not to exceed $24,766, which will be covered by the FEMA Advanced Assistant Grant and a match from the state.
Thank you, Jay. Do we have a second?
Adam, I'll second.
Thank you, Adam. Any further discussion? Hearing none, calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, I.
Bart, aye?
Adam, I.
J.I.
David, I. Okay. Discussion of a flood recovery roundtable with the governor on Thursday. That's this week.
That is this week.
And I believe three of us, Lisa, Bard, and I have all indicated that we are interested.
Right.
Yeah, and the communication from the governor's office was they sort of want to keep this as like not a publicly warned meeting, more of an informal conversation with town staff and
smart.
leadership. So yeah, they've specifically said we don't want a quorum. So like, we kind of got to pick 2 select board members that would like to go and no more than 2.
Can it be broadcast or anything, or?
I think they're
kinda-
really looking for like this one-on-one, like, hey, what worked well
Okay.
for you? What didn't work well? What can we do better? And Eric Philcorn, who's a Richmond resident, who's involved in leading this, has said he's done a number of these,
Mhm.
and in every case, he's seen something good come out of that. They go back to Montpelier for some actual action. So I think it's a good opportunity.
All right.
So I'll say in spite of my interest, as of earlier today, I was scheduled for a meeting from 2 to 4 on that day, so.
And I'm
I'll
scheduled for a
withdraw.
3:30 to 5 meeting that day, which is directly opposite it. So I can't do it either.
Well,
So Lisa, I guess you have
I'm
to.
retired. How could I say no?
Chance to
let me
meet
just
the
make sure.
governor.
We're talking about the.
I think it is a
24th.
worthwhile meeting and.
I do.
Yeah.
3:30 to 5 on Thursday,
2:35 on Thursday
Well-
at the library.
and both people that were going to do it can't go.
Well, Lisa was the third. And
Yeah.
it sounds like she
I mean,
can't.
I would like to attend, but I assume
Right.
we couldn't have a
Yeah,
quorum,
it-
so if it really.
No, if it's just you and
3:30
Lisa,
to
that,
5, yeah.
unless, I mean, you
I
didn't.
would really
I got
like
it on
to
my
attend.
calendar, so.
So, okay, Mr. Chairman, I think we have 2 people to go, Lisa and Adam.
Boom, shakalaka.
Okay, we'll see you at the library at 3:30 on Thursday.
Is that time still correct, Josh? You know, 3:30?
I believe it is, and
If
if it,
not, let me know.
if it changed, yeah, it
I'm
did.
pretty open until 7 that evening. So,
My God, we have only one.
Oh, wait a
project
minute.
left.
Interstate's impact on the absence.
Is it actually?
Other than the,
Oh, June Hessen has her hand raised.
Oh, go ahead, June.
Should we?
Yeah, I would just like to ask the select board members who attend this meeting with the governor that they bring up this stormwater remediation 3-acre rule issue and how it's impacting property owners.
And our thesis about return on investment, while it's not without value or impact, it's relative return on investment compared to some other things like Jones Mill seems out of scale, if you will.
Very much
Yes.
so.
Yes, thank you.
I assume you've all reviewed the Richmond Rescue Quarterly Report.
I didn't make it that far.
I'm not sure they all did.
We are lucky to have them
We are.
We
in
are.
our time.
Um,
Good job. If anybody's on the call.
Okay, are we ready to move on to minutes, warrants, and purchase orders?
Yes.
Sounds like we are. So I'll start with a motion to approve the minutes of the October 7th meeting as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Jay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody notice any corrections that need to be made to those minutes?
No, sir.
So we're approving the minutes as presented. Calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
J.I.
Lisa, I.
Art, I.
Adam, I.
David, I. Next, a call for a motion to approve the minutes of the October 15th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Jay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody see any corrections that could be offered to those minutes as presented?
No.
Hearing none, calling the motion to a vote. This is a motion to approve the draft minutes of the October 15th meeting. Please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Oh, Lisa, I.
Art, I.
Adam, I.
J.I.
David, I. Minutes are approved. Purchase orders.
Mr. Chairman, I move to amend purchase order 4950, which is I'm sure about to be shared on the screen. To Hinesburg Sand and Gravel for material for emergency road repair to the amount of $154,295.97.
Okay, and this is a purchase order that has already been approved and amended.
And we're amending it again.
So it was originally 70,000, then it was amended to 100,688. Now we're amending it to $154,295.97.
all materials for flood recovery.
So is this, we needed more materials than we first thought?
Yeah, I think
It's
that,
not surprising.
yeah, I mean, I think Pete initially estimated it at 70 and it quickly escalated as he continued to buy more materials.
Josh, does some of this wind up having to fill in besides roads so that our repair work will stay put?
Yeah, there's like when you have a road washout, you sort of have to rebuild
Everything
the
around it's
base
washed out.
and there's various materials that you need to build up to the top coat of gravel. And then the ditches on the side have to be rebuilt as well with large stone.
I think that's harder for estimators to really catch
Yeah.
until the work starts. So,
And it's also dependent on what the market, this amount of money
Exactly.
will get you different amounts of gravel depending on how tight the market is.
And we were actually inspecting a site up on Snipe Island at the end of last week, and he was saying how hard it is to get gravel anymore. And the
Mhm.
private homeowner was looking to get more gravel for his road, and he was like, yeah, we can't find it.
Right.
Because
all out in the river
everybody's
banks.
Yeah.
buying it right now.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if the price has gone up a little bit. I think
It wouldn't at all.
So Jay, you made the motion. Was it seconded? I don't think it was.
I made the motion to accept this purchase order.
I'll second. I will second.
Lisa seconded.
Okay. And we're amending it, not moving it.
Right, we're amending it.
Okay. So calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, I.
Art, I.
Adam, I.
J.I.
And David, I.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve purchase order number 5047 to Pike Industries for paving for $200,000.
And just to note, this is actually additional paving to what was in the budget for FY 25 because we actually received the state paving grant, which will give us $200,000 with a 20% match. So we'll use what was in the budget for FY25 that we're gonna pave anyway as part of our match. And this is gonna allow us, I think, to get all the way down Huntington Road to the town line. So
Perfect.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Lisa.
Mhm.
Motion made by Jay, seconded by Lisa. Calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, I.
Art, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, I.
and
David, I.
And one additional note, as soon as we're done paving, we're gonna have the fog lines painted on Huntington Road as well. So we only went up a portion of it in the spring, knowing this was coming. So we'll get that done before winter as well. So
How
things
far
are
do you
moving.
think how far do you think the fog line will be from the edge of the road? I've seen a lot of bicyclists up there and I can't believe they're.
Yeah, I think they base it on how far from the center line, which I think is like
Yeah.
an 11-foot travel line.
Yeah,
It'll
right.
vary,
It's the-
you know, but you look at Cochran Road and Hinesburg Road, it's, I don't know, between 6 inches to 2 feet in places.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But it's
there's
been
places
nice.
on East Hill Road where
Yeah, it gets really narrow. And I was noticing Williston, I think they must have just restriped East Hill Road. And it's like literally that,
Yep.
it's on the edge, because it seems so narrow. I noticed that over the weekend.
The bicyclists are calling it a bike lane. I mean, their tires fit on it. That's it.
Yeah, but I did note just driving it, it does make you aware as you're driving, like, okay, there could be somebody on the side here, and I run on Hinesburg Road, granted it's 5 in the morning,
Mhm.
but it is nice to have that little bit of delineation to be like,
Mhm.
okay, I should be okay over here,
Mhm.
so it's helpful.
Are they gonna cut the pavement when they put the lines down, or are they just putting the lines down?
Cut the pavement.
those grooves.
Rumble strips, no, we hadn't
No,
budgeted.
sometimes they put a recess in so the plow doesn't scrape the paint off.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh, do they groove that?
that's like what they did on,
I doubt it.
East Main Street.
Yeah.
The center line
Oh, did
is,
they?
is
Is it
downside.
recessed? Okay.
If
Yeah, I
they
don't think we're
don't,
doing
it
that.
might make sense to wait until the spring.
What do you guys want me to tell Pete?
I trust
mean,
Pete's judgment.
You think we're gonna
There
get
you
this
I think we're gonna probably restripe everything. We're gonna have to, I hear
At
it,
some point.
but yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Next is,
Oh,
I
yeah,
move
sorry,
to
next one.
approve PO number 5076 to Hinesburg Police Department for police coverage for July 2024. In the amount
Second.
of
oh,
$36,337.50.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Jay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, I.
Art, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, I.
David, I. Purchase order is approved. Warrants.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the warrants as presented.
Thank you, Jay.
I'll
Anybody
second.
have any? Oh, we need a second.
Lisa? Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa.
Mhm.
Anybody have any questions on the warrants?
Hmm.
Okay, so absent questions or comments, motion to entertain, motion to approve the warrants, as presented.
I like
Calling the motion to a vote.
entertain.
Pardon?
Motion to entertain. That sounds really good.
Yeah. Calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, I.
Art, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, I.
And David, I. Warrants are approved. Update on police department hiring.
Or do you want to do next agenda first?
Oh, yeah, we probably should.
Yeah, we have a number of things we decided to kick down the road a little bit. We don't know if the ACF will be coming back to say, well, we're gonna present a clean copy.
Right.
And they probably won't have had a chance to really review it in depth, so that's probably not next time.
Right.
Updates on obviously Southview Stormwater, if
Mhm.
there are any,
Jericho
and
was.
about sending a letter out.
And also reaching out to the legislators.
Yes. Like for the
Should have a
election, they should be very
Look at the
receptive.
update by then, I would
They'll
imagine.
have
right?
update, you know. Oh, update on Halloween, you know, how many, like possessions? How many exorcisms?
We, next year, if we're gonna close the roads, we should force them to take stats on how many pounds of candy, how many kids and all that.
Yeah, I agree.
How
Yeah,
many cider
absolutely.
donuts?
We're ready to start tracking this.
We need to have some dashboards.
Data.
Possession of 9/10 of sanity.
I got nothing else.
Okay.
Well, actually, there's no parking zone. We were
Yeah,
going to come
I
back
get
to.
that, yeah.
Yep, I got that.
Yep. Okay. That's all I got.
So. Update on police department hiring. Somebody want to make a motion to put us into executive
I
session?
move to find that premature public knowledge about candidates for employment in the police department would cause the town or person to suffer substantial disadvantage.
Is Bart, I will second that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Bard. Calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, I.
Bart, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, aye.
David, I.
I move that we enter executive session to discuss candidates for employment in the police department under the provisions of 1 VSA 313A3 and invite town manager Josh Arneson into the executive session.
Is Bart, I will second that motion.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Bard. Calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, I.
Bart, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, aye.
David, I.
I've already disconnected from the meeting. I won't be able to bring my laptop in anyway.
We are in executive session.
Chairman,
Remember the first time.
I move to find that premature public knowledge about the review of the town manager would cause the town or person to suffer a substantial disadvantage.
Thank you, Jay. Do we have a second?
Bart, I'll second that.
Thank you, Bart. Calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, I.
Bart, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, aye.
David, I.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we enter executive session to discuss the review of the town manager under the provisions of 1 VSA 313A3.
Thank you, Jay. Do we have a second?
Is Bart, I'll second that.
Thank you, Bart. Calling the motion to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, I.
Bart, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, aye.
David, I.
We'll see you in a bit.
All right, I'll be. Before you move on, who exited out? Who made the motion?
I made both motions to exit out, and I think Bard seconded both of them.
Yeah.
All right,
We all agreed.
5 and 5.
Unanimous, yeah.
all right.
Hey, so you can make the motion?
I
Yeah,
can't.
we had fun discussing.
Oh, Bard is
Good
saying you want
discussion.
to.
Hey, I'll tell you, you
Okay, well, you
can't,
make
you
the motion.
actually can't hear anything. I've
Oh.
always wondered, like,
We'll
when
just
we're
be
over there,
loud.
like, if people aren't talking. But I heard mumbles and a few like, I was like, all right, good.
Okay, so Bard, you make the motion.
Okay.
Khrushchev used to take his shoe off.
So, Josh, we just met to discuss your performance evaluation and your performance, and among other positive comments, we propose to give you a financial bonus this year. And I would like to move a one-time performance bonus in recognition of the extra hours, extra workload, particularly with the multiple flooding events and follow-up from previous flooding events of $3,500.
I will second that motion.
Any further discussion?
Can we amend it to $3,500 in one donut?
No, let's not do that.
No, thank you.
Because then he's just,
Thank you.
if you give Josh a donut, he's going to less than that.
Oh, I love that.
I'll go with it, yeah.
Did we vote?
So Josh,
Was
this
there a
is
vote?
Not yet.
a monetary compensation, but there is meaning behind it because yes, it's a bonus, but you've also worked some of the hours that you haven't been compensated for. In your everyday in at 5:30 and out at 10 o'clock at nights. And with the 2 floods and having to shuffle family plans to accommodate work demands. So I don't want you to think that, oh, gee, if they just gave me some money, it's a heartfelt, it's the least we feel we can do. Given everything you've done for us, we want you to feel like we really do appreciate it because we do.
No, I appreciate it. It's always obvious that it is heartfelt, and I appreciate that about all of you, so thank you very much.
So having said that, calling the motion to a vote,
Lisa, I.
Bart, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, aye.
and David, I.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Thank you, Jay.
Is Bart, I'll second that.
That settled it.
And calling the motion of adjournment to a vote, please identify yourself and signify your vote.
Lisa, I.
Bart, I.
Adam, I.
Jay, aye.
And David, I.
Pass your things down.